Hi everyone, it's Laura here for Studio Katia, and in today's video I will show you how I created a card and a coordinating tag using the Shellebration stamp set. As a first step, I started working on my card, and for my background I am doing some ink blending with distress oxides. I am blending them in a circular pattern, starting from the center with cracked pistachio, then going around the cracked pistachio with peacock feathers first, and finally for the outer areas I used Mermaid Lagoon and Blueprint Sketch. Once I laid down the first layer of color, I will come in with a second one to smooth out the edges, starting from the outside with Blueprint Sketch, and then moving on to Mermaid Lagoon, peacock feathers, and finally cracked pistachio. Once the inks were nicely blended, I took the Studio Katia Bubble Stencil, laid it over my background, and used the baby wipe to lift off some of the ink through the stencil itself. And I am using delicate circular motions and trying to tap the baby wipe over the stencil rather than drag it, so that I get a clear impression and I don't risk peeling the paper. I did this over the whole area, and then I decided that I wanted to add some glitter to the background, so I carefully repositioned the stencil and used the spatula to apply some Nouveau Glimmer paste in Moonstone over the whole background. And once I coated the entire area, I lifted the stencil, washed it immediately together with the spatula under my sink, and put the background aside to dry. While the background was drying, I started coloring my images. I used this really cute turtle from the Studio Katia Shell-ebration stamp set and some of the smaller images from the Under the Sea stamp set. I stamped them with Memento Tuxedo black ink on some Nina Solar white cardstock, and I colored them with my Spectrum Noir markers. And even if I did color all the images that you see, I ended up using just a few, and in order to keep the video short, I will only share the coloring for the turtle, and I will upload a color chart with all the markers I used for all the images on the blog post that you will find linked in the description box down below, in case you want to use it as a reference. And I will now leave you with some music while I color this cute turtle, and I will catch you guys soon. Once all my images were colored, I cut them with the coordinating dies and started working on my card base. I decided to make a window card, so I used the Darling Ribbon Creative Dies by Studio Katia to cut some white cardstock to an 8:2 size and also to cut the window out of the center of this panel. I then went ahead and prepared my sentiment. I used the Let's Celebrate saying in the Shellebration stamp set. I stamped it with Versamark ink on some black cardstock, coated it with white embossing powder, and then melted the embossing powder with my heat gun. I cut a strip around it and then started assembling the front of the window. I used a tape runner to adhere some acetate to the back of the window, and I'll be using the same tape runner to adhere some foam behind the window itself so that I can raise it with respect to the background and create some dimension. I then arranged some of the images on the ocean panel and glued them in place using some liquid glue and the pick-me-up tool. To adhere the turtles and the rest of the elements on the window front, I instead used my tape runner because I find dry adhesive to be a little bit cleaner for me when I'm dealing with acetate. And I am trying to arrange the elements in a way such as to create a dynamic and interesting look, to make them interact with each other and enhance the depth in the scene that I had started creating with the fan foam. And to add some extra shine, I decided to glue some Majestic Confetti by Studio Katia here and there on my background. And even if I'm not showing it in the video, I am always checking that everything will look nice once I glue my front of the window on my background. So I'm always checking the relative position of the elements on my card by overlapping the window with the background. To make sure that my panels are well aligned, I used the trick that I learned from Katia Shell-ebration, and I used my Mini Misty as a guide. I mounted everything on an A2 card base, and for some finishing touches, I used Nuvo Jewel drops in key lime, limoncello and sea breeze all over the card front. And this will dry clear but have a hint of color to them that will match nicely with the palette I used for my card. Using the exact same techniques, I also created a matching tag to go with this card. And for the background on the tag, I used the Brushstroke Waves Creative Stencil. And to cut the tag itself, I used the Dotted Shaker Tag 2 Creative Dies. And here is how they look next to each other. I think they make the perfect set to go with a nice birthday present for someone who was born in the summer. And that's it for today. I really hope you liked this video, and I hope I inspired you to create with the Studio Katia Shell-ebration set. Don't forget to subscribe to the Studio Katia channel for more inspiration from the design team. Thank you all so much for watching and have a great day.